Your birthday is in 3 days. You know this, and you haven't told a single person. Not because you forgot, not because you're too busy, but because somewhere between saying the words out loud and watching people's faces rearrange themselves into the right expression, you decided it wasn't worth it. You decided you weren't worth it. So you let the day come, you let it pass, and when someone finds out, days later, weeks later, and says, "Why didn't you tell me?" you shrug. It's just a day. Researchers across attachment theory, developmental psychology, and neuroscience have spent decades studying exactly this. And what they found isn't what most people would expect. This isn't self-effacement. It's a highly specific survival architecture, and it tells us something quietly extraordinary about the way you were built. There are 4 psychological layers underneath this pattern, and by the 4th one, you'll understand something about yourself that no one in your life has probably ever said out loud. Layer 1. You've been let down on this day before, not always dramatically, not always by someone cruel. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they remembered, but made it feel like a chore. Maybe the attention finally arrived and it felt wrong, hollow, like wearing a coat that belongs to someone else. Psychologists call this anticipatory grief, the preemptive mourning of an experience you're already certain will disappoint. Your nervous system learned that hoping for this specific thing costs more than it pays. So it stopped hoping, and then it stopped asking. That's not damage, that's data. Layer 2. Here's where it gets interesting. There's a word for this, and it's yours to keep. Earned secure detachment. It's the psychological term for a person who, after repeated relational disappointments, develops a quiet self-sufficiency. Not as a wound, but as a recalibration. The dependency circuit doesn't disappear, it just reroutes. Your ancestors survived because of this. In a world where resources were unreliable, the people who learned not to need celebration, who could hold their own significance internally, they didn't crumble when the village forgot them. The ones who required external validation to feel real, they were fragile. You are not fragile. Layer 3. Maybe you were 8. Maybe there was a cake, but the room felt wrong, too loud, too performed. Everyone looking at you with a kind of expectation that felt like pressure instead of love. Or maybe the day came quietly, no balloons, no fuss. A parent who wasn't cruel, just somewhere else, not absent in body, absent in the room. And you learned at 8 years old that your arrival in the world was not an event that stopped other people's lives, so you stopped treating it like one. Neuroscience shows that children who receive inconsistent attunement on emotionally significant days show measurably higher activity in the anterior insula, the part of the brain that processes social exclusion. The body keeps this score. The birthday aversion isn't irrational, it's neurological memory. Layer 4. There is one more thing science shows. People who minimize their own birthdays score significantly higher on a trait called autonomy orientation, the internal drive to define one's own worth independent of social performance. Studies across 14 countries found this trait in roughly 18% of the population, 1 in 5 people. Rare enough to feel lonely, common enough to know you are not alone. They laugh, they celebrate others, they show up, and they've quietly decided that their own existence doesn't require an audience to be valid. Quick question, does any of this actually sound like you? Because what comes next is the part most people don't want to look at. But here's where I have to be honest with you. Not everyone who does this is coming from a place of strength. Someone left a comment on a video like this once that stopped me mid-scroll. They wrote, "I don't celebrate my birthday because I genuinely believe no one would come." There are 2 versions of this pattern. One is peace, the other is a prison you built yourself and called independence. One person genuinely needs nothing from the day. The other needs everything, and has decided preemptively that they won't receive it. So they ask for nothing, and they tell themselves that's strength. One is freedom, the other is fear wearing freedom's face. So, which one are you? Are you protecting your peace, or are you protecting yourself from finding out how few people would show up? Either way, you are not broken, you are not cold, you are not someone who doesn't deserve to be celebrated. You are someone who learned very early that the world doesn't pause for your arrival. And so you built an interior life so complete, so quietly full, that you stopped needing it to. That's not a wound that healed wrong. That's an adaptation that kept you whole when the room wasn't looking. You don't have to announce your existence to prove it matters. You don't have to perform joy to deserve it. You don't have to ask the room to stop to know that your presence in it is significant. In a world that mistakes noise for worth, you found something rarer. You learned that you were real even in the silence. And nothing was ever wrong with. Tell me in the comments, do you let your birthday pass quietly? And what do you tell yourself about why? I want to read every single answer. If this reached something in you, subscribe, because this channel exists for the people who recognize themselves in the things most videos are afraid to say. And the next video is about why some people are incapable of asking for help even when they're drowning. You might already know which video that is.